Hello everybody, welcome to our first lesson of the Arduino series of lessons, Blinking LED. In this unit, or more specifically in this lesson, we're going to be teaching you about the basics of the Arduino IDE, what an Arduino is, and assembling circuits in Tinkercad. First, I'm going to go over the breadboard and Arduino board. You've probably used these before, being computer engineering students, if you are. If you aren't, we have the site here for you. You've probably worked with them in the past, but an Arduino board is a microcontroller designed for easy hardware and software use. Using your computer, you can program it and tell it what to do. A breadboard is not like an Arduino board. It is a board that's used to create circuits that does not require soldering. You simply plug things into the board. This makes the circuits easier to use because it's easily modifiable, and it's also a lot safer than soldering things on. It may be a little bit inefficient compared to soldering things together, but it does the job and it does it well. This is a slide about safety. I know a lot of you are working online, but still, this is general knowledge. If you ever decide to work on an Arduino or breadboard or anything regarding circuits in real life, when working, never touch or disconnect wires or tweak parts while the board is connected to power. This could result in serious injury. Okay, do not touch circuit components while power is connected. Once again, this can lead to serious injury, and I'm obligated to tell you that you shouldn't. Next, providing power to the breadboard. As you can see here, I have a screenshot of a breadboard and Arduino setup I have in Tinkercad, and yeah, using these screenshots and using Tinkercad, I'm going to be explaining to you the process of setting this up and making it work. First of all, provide power to the breadboard. The first step to creating the board is wiring the breadboard, connecting it to the Arduino via the 5 volts and ground pins on the Arduino to their respective locations on the breadboard. Do not power the Arduino board at this point. You can also use this setup later in the project. As you can see here, I have 5 volt connected to the power here and ground respectively. Whoops, sorry about that. And keep in mind here, the current runs vertically. So by connecting here, I'm providing this entire row here with power, and as well as this row here using these two connecting wires here. Next, connect the LEDs to the breadboard. To hook up an LED, you must connect it to the breadboard as shown. The anode must be connected to a resistor, which must be connected to one of the digital pins on the board. As you can see here, we have the cathode here and the anode connected to a resistor to a digital pin on the board, pin 8. And what would happen if there was no resistor? That's a very good question. I'll let my colleague Vanujan answer that question for you.
Yeah, so the anode is basically the positive leg of the LED, so that's what's usually connected to power.
Yes, and the cathode is the negative electrode of the LED, connected to ground. Now, what would happen if there was no resistor? Without a resistor, the LED would be connected directly to the 5 volts, and it would be overvolted. It'd be very bright for a while, and then it would burn, or it might blow up. Now, some of my friends have accidentally blown up and burned LEDs in the past, and it can result in injury. So keep in mind that even whenever you create a circuit with using an LED or any component for that matter, to make sure that there is no risk of harm. Now here you see a screenshot of the Arduino IDE, void setup and void loop. The Arduino IDE is an IDE that allows users to program the Arduino boards. Is it possible to overvolt a resistor? Let me think. I think you can. Too much current flows a resistor, it'll heat up, and I think if you overvolt it as well, it'll heat up, and then it'll become really hot and it can melt. This has actually happened to my colleague Vanujan. He's experienced resistors heating up. Remember you told me that one time?
Yeah, so depending on how much resistance your resistor has, if it has a smaller amount of resistance but the current is really high in circuit, it can potentially destroy your resistor.
That could also in turn destroy your entire circuit. First of all, void setup. As you've seen before, this void setup and void loop. Void setup is where you put things to run once. Generally, this is where we set pin modes. Now here you see I've written pin mode 8 output. Now keep in mind, I've showed you earlier, LED, the anode of the LED is connected to digital pin 8. So here, what am I doing? Well, I'm listing pin mode 8 as an output. So the pin on the Arduino 8 is an output, which means the Arduino sends information through the pin to the LED because it's an output. Now, what's an example of something else that can be listed as an output? I'll give you an example, a motor. Because do we have to have M in mode capitalized? Yes, the syntax is very picky, so you have to have M in mode capitalized, otherwise it does not work. Generally, when you compile or try to upload it to the bot, if there's an error like this, it will tell you. But yeah, you have to have M capital. Write it exactly as I have. And so yeah, and another example of something that can be listed as an output is a motor, because the information from the Arduino is sent to the motor and not the other way around. Next, void loop. How about output? Does it need to be capital? Yes, it's part of the syntax requires both the M in mode and output to be capitalized. It doesn't do that by itself. You have to make sure it's like that. Here you see in void loop, I've written digital write 8 high. Digital write is a way of writing to the digital pin, through the digital pin, to the component connected to it. If my digital write 8 is high, it'll send the signal of high through the digital pin 8, which will make the LED, in this case, light up. Also, here I have the code I've discussed before, void setup, void loop, as well as delay. So now you know that in void setup I'm setting pin mode 8 to output, which means that the LED is considered an output by the Arduino the board. Digital write 8 high, which writes the digital pin 8 as high, lighting up the LED. And here's something new, delay 2000. Delay is a function in the Arduino IDE that can be used to time things. For example, this right here lights up the LED, where digital writes pin 8 to high, which lights up the LED, for 2000 milliseconds. Think, if this was 5000, how long would it light up? 5 seconds. If it was 10,000, 10 seconds. 1,000, 1 second. If we didn't have delay at all, the only thing in void loop would be digital write 8 high, and the LED would stay activated. And that's all for the teaching part of this lesson today. We hope you understood, and if you have any questions, you can leave them in the chat. Are there any questions? Is there a way to not use loop? Not that I know of. I'm not exactly sure what happens if you put digital write 8 high anywhere else, either in void setup or not, but I haven't tried it out. I mean, you can experiment and you can try things by yourself in Tinkercad, which it's good for you to do some experimental study, as long as you're staying safe, to figure out how it works. So I haven't tried, I don't know, but it might be possible. If there are any other questions, you can put them in the chat. I'm not exactly sure. I think that's a feature of the Arduino IDE and the programming language adaptation that they use. It's simply how they made the functions. Digital write 8 high.
So another thing is, when using two words together, the thing about this kind of code is, like, if, for example, the digital write function, you can't have a space in between them. Otherwise, that would define as two different functions. So when putting digital and write together, and they're two different words, they capitalize a W to indicate that digital and write are two different words. But usually it should be lowercase. But it's just to differentiate that. That's the reason for the syntax having capitals there, and the rest usually lowercase.
So that you can differentiate from the two words while still keeping it as one word in the IDE. Very well explained. If there are no other questions, I'm going to mute myself. And thank you very much for watching, to anybody who watched, and we hope you learned something.